Hi, Ben.
Howdy.
So unconscious bias is a concept well documented in psychological studies, which is basically that people associate negative things with people of color and positive things with whites. So if that is true, given that that is true, how does white privilege not exist?
Okay, so you're asking about unconscious bias. I apologize because it's kind of echoey, but the question was, if there is unconscious bias, just to repeat it so I'm making sure I get it right, if there is unconscious bias, how does white privilege not exist?
The question is, given that there is unconscious bias, how does white privilege not exist?
So number one, so when I speak about white privilege, yes, so when I speak about white privilege, I'm speaking specifically about behavior. Okay, there have been no studies, and really I've looked at these studies, the connection between what they call implicit bias, this is their favorite phrase now, implicit bias, unconscious bias, and biased behavior has yet to be proven at any level that is even remotely necessary to be used in, for example, a courtroom, which is why it's never been used in a courtroom. It is also true that there is no way, there really isn't, there's been no proven way to alleviate what they call unconscious bias, which means that we're ghost hunting. So what I would suggest is that if there is unconscious bias, and I'll acknowledge the possibility or the reality of unconscious bias, if there is, then I need you to I don't care about what's in people's heads so much as what they do. So if you point me to a racist behavior, don't worry, I'll let you respond. If you point me to a racist behavior, I'm happy to stand alongside you and protest it. What I can't do is protest about things in people's head that I don't know about because I'm not a mind reader.
Okay, so that's a really interesting response, and to that I have two questions. Firstly, what I've heard you say that this is something that, the way people think doesn't affect their behavior. So that's the first thing you've said. So I'm really curious if you can kind of give me another example of a thought that somebody has which doesn't affect their behavior. Like, do people who, support Trump not vote for him? Like, I'm very curious about that.
Yes.
And secondly, so the second thing that I want to ask is that if it's something it's hard to fix, does it mean we shouldn't do anything about it? Because you said, I don't know if we can change how people think. Does that mean we shouldn't try?
I mean, first of all, not a great impression. But beyond that, my voice isn't that low. But beyond that, as far as the first question, which is, do people have thoughts that don't manifest in behavior? Yes, all the time.
For instance?
For instance, every thought that you have about walking up here and strangling me right now. I assume we have thoughts all the time that don't manifest in behavior, and this is true every single day. We consider thoughts that cross our minds. And the problem with unconscious bias is the idea is you don't even know that you're having the thought, right? So how can you stop it if you don't even know that you're having it? But then we should be able to gauge the unconscious bias and its impact on behavior. That's why it's unconscious bias as opposed to conscious bias. The idea behind unconscious bias is that it's not even a ghost, it's a ghost of a ghost, because you don't even know you're having the thought. So people, the whole idea behind diversity training is the idea that you can retrain people to stop their chain of thought in order so that it doesn't manifest in behavior. I don't think that every thought manifests in behavior. If it did, then every time a man saw a good-looking woman walk down the street, a straight man saw a good-looking woman down the street, we'd have a real mess on our hands. So the second question, the idea was a little too broad for me to respond to, which is, just because something is tough, don't we have to face up to it? Yes, we have to face up to tough things all the time. And one of the tough things I would suggest that we face up to is that you have a lot more control over your own behavior and the decisions you make than the supposedly widespread unconscious bias of people you've never met.
Hi. So throughout your speech, you kind of treat the left as sort of this monolithic group of people.
Yeah, like a terrible block of terrible people.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about. Like at one point, for example, he said the left hate free speech. The left only care about diversity but not values.
Right, it's shorthand.
The left is trying to destroy America's value system. My first question to you is, isn't this sort of kind of generalized hyperbolic language divisive, and doesn't it kind of add to division instead of bringing America together? And my second question is, do you acknowledge that the left is composed of a wide, diverse range of people with diverse viewpoints?
Of course. Oh, here's what I define the left as. So, good question. Here's what I define the left as if the speech didn't make it clear. Excuse me. When I say that the fundamental left value, if you believe this, you are on the left. If you believe that fairness of outcome is more important than than equality of rights, then you are on the left.
Is it possible to be on the left but not believe that?
It depends on an issue-by-issue case. You may agree with the left, but I don't think that you are on the left. Since I'm the one speaking, I get to make the definition. But But that being the case, by my definition, that's what I mean. When you're asking me what I mean when I say the left. Now you're asking me to read your mind and tell you what you mean when you say the left. What I mean when I say the left is the left means people who believe equality of outcome trumps equality of opportunity. Now, if you want to say that there are people who don't believe that who are on the left, you're using another definition, not the one that I'm using, which is okay. I mean, we can talk about your definition.
But by that logic, would you acknowledge that there are people who are liberals but who aren't under your definition?
That I will
of the
acknowledge,
left?
which is why I specifically don't use the term liberals. I don't equate liberals and leftists. They're not the same.
Okay.
So I think there are liberals who believe what old school liberals used to believe, the whole idea, I may disagree with you, but I'll die for your right to say it. But that's a liberal value. That's not a leftist value.
But I mean, this kind of idea of your left, how big of a population do you think this is? Do you think that embodies a majority of liberals? I don't understand, I think that when I hear you say left, I
think it embodies a majority of the people who ardently believe in the Democratic Party platform, to be more specific.
So you think that most people who are Democrats are under your definition of left?
No, I think most people who deeply study and believe in the Democratic Party platform are leftists. I think most people who vote Democrat do so because they think Republicans are assholes. I mean...
Thank you all so much for coming. Have a good night. Thanks.